you want me to go first? I can break it.
It's almost done, it's almost done.
Was it like the mouth or the paws?
I think it was.
Oh, it's better than that.
Yeah, it was. We did go coming on Sunday, so she can get used to this.
Oh, is this the long one?
Yes, the long
I'm
one.
so happy it was kind of.
Oh.
No, because you can't have one, you might as well have two. If you have two, you might as well get three.
Yeah, this is your third one.
Got the black, got the chocolate, now I got the yellow.
One for each child.
So they claim. And yeah, the two that we currently have follow mom around like Pied Piper.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But even she wasn't sure that one would be hers. Good luck with that.
Their name.
Hmm?
Their name.
Maverick.
Oh.
Yes. Made herself.
Wow. I have 3 kids.
I'm gonna say the
I
top,
don't
so
think
I'll get it.
My goodness, I've seen enough diapers that they're gonna. That's like the one thing, they were always, they have to clean up even if they get done. I'm like, I can tell them, I did that face with my kids in hot trainers.
Obviously, those guys do a good job. The pleasure of those guys, like my friend, just shoot it to them.
Yeah,
So, okay,
but
easy, but.
they,
Nice.
yeah, it's a hard business.
Rough racket, right?
Tough sell.
It's not like that, huh? It works.
It's good. This, no ring.
No cruise right now?
Tuesday. We leave Tuesday.
It's the first one or the second?
We're just doing one.
It's been one,
We're just doing one, but it's a long
a
one.
long one.
It's a nicer one.
Where you going?
St. Martin, St. Thomas, Puerto Rico, and one of Carnival's like islands. We had to go Tuesday morning.
We're doing that.
Port Canaveral.
Oh, okay.
So we're staying in Cocoa Beach for 2 days. Like, track down my dream of Jeannie, you know?
Sure. I was gonna get that. One moment. This is two things. But it's 7 o'clock. May I have a motion to return to open session at 7 p.m.?
So
Second. Discussion, roll call vote. Jennifer LeBoy. Yes. Steve Sebastian. Josie Shattuck. Yes. Gwen Violet.
Yes.
David Costa.
yes.
Stephanie Howard. Kashali Shaw. Yes. Motion carried. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public participation, if you have any questions or statements that pertain to the agenda items or wish to address the board on other topics, this is your opportunity. You must sign up to address the board prior to the start of the meeting. Conduct yourself with civility towards others and exhibit honesty. When your name is called, please stand, identify yourself, and indicate that agenda item or topic you wish to refer to. Consistent with Open Meetings Acts 5 ILC 120/206. And board policy, public participation in school board meetings and petitions to the board. Will reserve 45 minutes for public comments with 3 minutes maximum per person during the board meeting. No mark yes, so I'm going to move on to administrative reports.
Did I not mark yes?
No,
I don't listen, sorry.
okay,
Can I?
yes,
Thank you.
sorry.
Good evening, I'm Carolyn Oakes. I'm a community member. I live in Oakwood Hills. I taught here for 28 years. Both of our daughters were students K-8, and I also subbed a few years after retirement. I have many fond memories, and I made many friends over the years. However, I'm now feeling sad for the district. I am not opposed to any change, but I question with an enrollment less than 900 if we really need all that is going on. Knowing a referendum would never pass, you took a different route and chose to utilize alternative revenue bonds because they didn't require voter approval. The district has now maxed out this revenue source and will be paying on these bonds for years to come. Did it have community support? While I have long been in favor of the road from Valley View, I honestly don't see the need for more wings when I am told by teachers that they have offered suggestions to keep our current buildings, but they were ignored. And now I see plans for searching for a deputy superintendent on the agenda. I sure hope there are some sound reasons for that, especially since the district is currently on administration overload with 8 currently listed on your website. Yes, I'm aware that 2 are part-time and sharing 1 position, but 7 full-time administrative salaries and then administrative benefit packages is overload. Why do we need another administrator? What kind of duties would this person have that are not already covered with our many administrators? How much can we afford before we max out? I'm very puzzled.
Number 7, administrative reports, Dr. Butte.
So we are in full summer school mode currently. 3 of 4 for summer school is kind of going on this week. Obviously, there's no school tomorrow with Juneteenth. It is going well. We're currently utilizing classrooms over in the junior high school while the elementary is under some renovations. But it is going quite well. Construction is currently also well on track and on pace to be done when the time school starts. There'll be updated pictures in my Friday report this week. Those people gone last week on vacation, so you get a double shot this week. And, everything else is going well. So, any questions about any of the projects that have going on? We do have on our agenda during administrative reports a presentation. Al Molby is here from the School Board Association. So if this was objection from the board, I'll turn it over to Al for his presentation.
Well, thank you, Dr. Duke. Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Talk to you a little bit about what I can see myself working with you in this capacity and looking at your potential for a deputy superintendent. Just a little bit of background as far as myself. I've been with IASB for 9 years now. I'm a retired superintendent. I was superintendent in suburban Cook County for 15 years in the district. I've been the principal there before that for 5. I had a superintendent at a different district for a while, teacher and coach and all the other things that you do, work your way up to become superintendent before you retire. So I retired 9 years ago, started working with IASB in primarily superintendent searches. The association does a variety of different administrative searches, executive searches for districts only in Illinois, and we serve districts in Illinois, but we attract candidates from all across the country. Most of the searches we do are for superintendents, and I actually worked with your board 8 years ago, did we say, or 7? 8 years ago.
7 years ago.
In the search that brought Dr. Pitt here. So I know there were 2 people on the board at the time, Michelle, you were on the board, and I believe Mr. Sebastian. So what I'd like to do is just kind of do an overview for everybody's benefit as far as what the search process is like, and then allow some time for questions that maybe might be more beneficial. I know that, I think you also loaded a brief PowerPoint that I have, but I'm not gonna really go through that because that's more of a sales pitch. My goal is to really hopefully answer questions about the process for looking for a deputy superintendent. So a little bit different, but not really. And actually, this is something that we've had several districts around the state this year and last year who have decided to look at hiring a deputy superintendent when they know that their current superintendent is going to be leaving or retiring most often within another year or 2 years. And what that has really done is it's helped with that transition tremendously. And I admire boards who are willing to make a move into this kind of administrative situation, because if you know that your current superintendent is going to be retiring in a year or 2 years, having somebody in place, we are finding with districts that we've done deputy superintendent searches for, it's really addressed a lot of the things that could come up as concerns along the way, and that person who is working as a deputy superintendent has had a chance to really learn so much about becoming the superintendent for the district and work in a lot of different capacities. I just finished 2 searches in the general area, the northern part of the state here, for starting July 1st with that are for deputy superintendents. The board's hired those candidates with the intent that they would move into the superintendency the following year. And they've been very, very pleased with the opportunity to already have somebody in place, and that person is going to work with those superintendents very closely in whatever capacity they decide is going to be best. And that's the key, is that there's some flexibility. If a district is just doing a superintendent search and that person is going to start on July 1st, generally they're like right into it, and sometimes there's not a lot of transition time, there's not a lot of opportunities for mentoring or anything else that might make that transition smoother and more successful for the district, for the board, and communities. And so I think that this is it's not unique, but it's for districts who maybe don't have superintendents, who maybe see this as an opportunity for that really to be a smooth transition. And I think that's kind of the key. So those districts, and when we look at it, we approach it as a superintendent search, because that's basically what you're doing. And the assumption is all is going to go well. Obviously, there's no guarantees, and what those districts who have hired deputy superintendents know that they've had to work out with their attorney in the contractual language to address the fact that it's not a guarantee, but the likelihood is, if all goes well, then that person's going to become the superintendent. And so the attorneys for these boards know that, and they've got the right language to include in the contract to make it such that, it's not guaranteed, but it's a likelihood that that person will transition. That's something that's a key thing. That was always a question that the boards had. What if it didn't work out? Well, then you can address that with the attorney and how you want that language to be in his or her contract once that person is hired. But for the most part, we look at it as a superintendent search. And I'll just kind of give you a quick overview of how we do it. I've given you a folder that's got some documents on both sides. On the left side of the folder, there's just some pamphlets and some brochures that talk about IASB and Prairie Association. Like I said, we only work with districts in Illinois. You pay to be a member of the School Board Association. So therefore, having us do the search is significantly a better financial or fiscal decision for you than hiring an outside firm. Outside firms do a good job, however, they're also very expensive. And so, the fact that you pay to be part of IASB defrays the cost of the superintendent search, and so our cost is significantly less. As a former superintendent, I recognize that this is a fiscal decision on your part, just to hire us to do the search, let alone being willing to commit to the success of the deputy superintendent position as well. So that's why we think that it's significant. So there's some information about IASB and our division and department and so on. We've got 7 consultants that do this. Myself and another consultant work primarily with districts in the northern part of the state, the suburban area and out further away from the suburban area. And then there's 5 consultants that live and work in the central and southern part of the state, tend to work out of the Springfield office. We work out of the Lombard office, but I live in the suburban area, so I'm able to have access to most of the districts in the suburban area as well as out in throughout the northern and north central part of Illinois. We all work together, but for the most part, searches are done by a lead consultant, which would be me, along with another consultant who would work with me in different capacities, and we work together on a lot of the searches that we've done in the year. I have done those deputy superintendent searches for those other districts, so I have a pretty good sense of any of the questions or concerns or things that came up along the way in the process itself. Really, on the right side of the folder is kind of an outline of the process, the quoted activities that would be a part of this. And there's also then a brochure that's in the back of the folder. That's actually the brochure from when the search was done here when Dr. Duke was hired. It's a little small version of it, but that's just so to bring back memories of what went into that. But that's kind of the first step of the process, is to develop the announcement vacancy and really build the profile of what you're looking for in what normally would be your next superintendent, and that kind of is what we're looking at, but we're going to talk about it in terms of your deputy superintendent. And that profile development is done through an online survey of their stakeholders. They have an opportunity to provide information and feedback about the district and what characteristics that they'd like to see in the deputy superintendent, but ultimately, talking kind of we're in the same now, the next superintendent. So that would be an online survey that would be administered. I would also then, I have a questionnaire that I would email to each one of you individually, and you can provide some individual feedback to me with the questions I have on that. Together, that makes up a report that I would come back probably in August at your August board meeting and present that to the board, a summary of the survey, along with a draft version of the new brochure to advertise the position. That brochure takes information about the communities that you serve, about demographic information, financial information, program information about the district, as well as then some of the characteristics and requirements that have been gleaned from this online survey, as well as my communications with each one of you individually as far as what kind of experiences you're looking for, and also the characteristics that you're looking for in your next superintendent. And so that goes into the brochure along with a timeline of the application process and so on. The survey we keep open for about 2 weeks. At the same time, we start to develop the information for the brochure through our office and through your district office. Your brochure probably would be somewhat similar to the one, even though it's from 8 years ago. There's a lot of similarities, I'm sure, as far as community items and program items and so on. But there's some updating that we can do as well. That gets posted and linked to a variety of job sites that we're a part of. We found that when administrators are looking to relocate to Illinois, the first place they look for openings is on our website. We're linked to IASA's website, which is the school administrator's website. That's the first place they look. But then when the brochure is done and gets posted, it's actually linked to multiple job sites. We're a part of the National Superintendent Search Organization. In fact, there's a brochure on the left side called NAST. And 40 out of the 50 states have organizations that do what we do. And so when we have a vacancy, it gets actually linked to all of the other 40 master members' websites as well. So we really, we do a good job of getting and promoting the positions, get the word out there as far as vacancies. Which is why we're very competitive now with the search firms, the for-profit firms. We're drawing the same pool of candidates that they do for openings. It's just we do it better and for less money. And so that's how that position will get posted and promoted. We usually keep the application open for about 5 to 6 weeks. It's an online application. It's pretty extensive. And then once the position is posted, we also have about 7,000 recipients, mostly administrators and educators in Illinois and the surrounding area, that we send out an email blast to, that they know that there's a vacancy that we're going to do the search for. Prairie Grove's deputy superintendent. This position would be described in the brochure, similar to what that would be. And then that gets posted when somebody starts an application, and they go to the website, and the brochure is what pops up on the PDF version. That's what they follow as far as the application process itself. Like I said, we keep it open for about 5 to 6 weeks, and then during that time, we start to review the application. We make sure that every application that is submitted has what's required, which would be the online application itself, plus the resume, obviously, a letter of interest, 3 current recommendation letters, transcripts, and also current Illinois licensure. And that's something that, whether it's a superintendent search or any other search, we feel that it's important to only bring candidates to boards that have current Illinois licensure. Sometimes we get candidates from out of state who are interested in applying, and we tell them right away, you need to get Illinois licensure. Not every state has reciprocity with Illinois, so they need to get on that right away. Also, we have candidates who sometimes say, well, I'm going to be done with I'm going to have a certificate at the end of June. Well, that's great, hopefully you do. However, if you don't, it's not fair to a board to have that person come as a candidate and then not have their licensure on January, or excuse me, on July 1st. It's a little different with the deputy now in that that person may not have, if your best choice, based on your interviewing and so on, doesn't have their licensure yet. As a deputy superintendent, there's not a requirement. However, you can make it a requirement that they have superintendent licensure, because that's just a guarantee. Since that person is going to move into that position the following year, that they've already got the licensure that they are required to have by the state. So that's something that to keep in mind. For a superintendent search, we don't bring candidates who don't have Illinois licensure to a board. After the application closes, myself and my colleague would read through and review and go through all of the applications that are completed and submitted as complete. And then we come up with what we see as the top tier of candidates. Generally, for example, let's say we just find, we're usually looking at maybe 10 to 12 of what we consider to be the top candidates based on their experiences, based on what they bring to what you're looking for. And as far as experience, as far as qualities, we look at them and we do a screening interview of them via Zoom, myself, my colleague, and then each of those individual candidates. And we go through about a half hour, kind of a get to know you interview with each one of them, so then get a sense of their what they bring to the table, the possible fit with your district as far as your next superintendent. And then we narrow that down to a slate to bring to you to interview. Usually boards want a slate of about 6 candidates, which is about what most boards will interview for first round. So I would come back to you then with what we consider to be the top 6. Again, it would be 5, it would be 7, but generally 6. And that would be the slate that you would interview when it comes time to do first round interviews. We encourage boards to be the ones, only boards, to do the interviewing first round. If you involve more people, more stakeholders, staff, whatever, in the first round of interviews, everybody's going to like somebody, and you're going to have a hard time coming up with a consensus. So the board should be the one to be doing the interview. with it being a deputy superintendent who would be working for a year with Dr. Butte, that could create, maybe create another opportunity for the board to decide if you want that gentleman to be in it or not in the interview process. The districts that we've done that have had, that have done the deputy superintendent route, they have involved, the board has involved the superintendent in the initial interviews because obviously that person, he or she is going to be working closely with Dr. Butte for a year prior to then moving into their superintendent position. So beyond just the board, including John in the initial interviews would probably make sense. After the board then narrows that down to most likely, let's say 2 finalists, then sometimes boards will expand that final round of interviews to include some staff members, some community members, various stakeholders in the final interviews at that point. So that's kind of a real quick, through the process. That last step, after narrowing it down and deciding who your top choice is going to be, the board can choose to go do a site visit at his or her current place of employment. You can always send 2 board members to do that. It's kind of a chance for your top choice to do a show and tell about their district. And you can set up meetings with some people in that district and talk to them and kind of do just a final confirming this is your best choice. And then obviously you would then work out the contractual arrangements with your attorney and with your final choice. So that's real quick, through the process. We do the most searches in the state, compared to the private firms. We do about 20 to 25 searches each year. There's generally about 100 turnovers in superintendents every year. Now, some boards choose to promote from within, and so that's included in that number. But as far as when boards choose to hire somebody to do a search, we're the ones that have chosen the most to do that. Like I said, we do about 20 to 25 a year. The other firms are significantly less than that. So I think that boards are confident in our process. And like I said, I think what's important is that we're doing it for you as a board because we're your association. We want it to be a successful decision. We want it to be in the right fit, obviously. You hear that a lot. That's what we look for, is that right fit for not just being a deputy superintendent to work with Dr. Butte in the board for a year, but ultimately then be your next superintendent, a year after that. And so we want that fit. We have a guarantee where if that person, for whatever reason, after a year, and either their choice or your choice, that person does not return, we can do another search at no cost. If during the search, if the candidates that are brought to you, that right person is just not there, we'll continue to do it at no cost until we find it. There's no additional fees, nothing that will continue to mount up as far as costs for you as a board. We haven't had to use that, too often as far as it not working out. The only time in the 9 years that I've been doing this is I worked with the district who hired a superintendent out of state. That person came here from Texas maybe. His wife didn't like it and she said, I'm going back to Texas, you come with me or not? And so he was only able to be there for half the year. The board worked out an arrangement, and so we're able to do a search in no cost. But generally, we've got a pretty good retention rate. We have about, I think maybe 92, 93% of the superintendents that we've placed in the last 3 to 4 years are still in the same position, which is really, the fact that Dr. Butte's been here 8 years, I was in my district 15 years, it's kind of anomalies because it's usually a shorter period of time and superintendents tend to be, somewhat transient. And so I think that, you're fortunate that you've had somebody finish your district for this long period of time. And that's what we look for. We hope that the superintendents are placed there and they'll stay for a committed. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed in my little quick spiel here. What questions can I hopefully answer for you?
How many consecutive searches are you doing at a time?
Myself personally,
Yeah, if you're gonna be helping us, are you gonna be also working to fill 3 other?
yeah, probably, yeah, usually we, most of us, each individual consultant, we usually have about, 3 to 4 going at a time. And I try not to do too many more than that, because I'm a retired superintendent, I want to enjoy my grandkids, and so I don't want to always be going to board meetings at night, so, and usually about, I think I've got 3 that are going on for this next year. And the pool of candidates is pretty strong. The pool of candidates for a deputy superintendent will be a little bit different because it will be most likely less people who have superintendent experience and more likely it's people who are principals ready to move into district level positions, assistant superintendents, coordinators, directors, whatever those positions might be called at the district level. In deciding the requirements for the position, we put it into the vacancy notice, into the announcement of vacancy. Probably we want to have teaching experience and principal experience required. What we often say is district level experience preferred. And so what that tells us is we would only bring to new candidates who have at least principal experience and most likely have district level experience to be the candidates you could be. And I think for a deputy superintendent that's going to move into the superintendency, expecting that district level position for experience is significant. But I think if you put more requirements on it, for example, superintendent experience required, that will narrow down your pool a little bit. You can also require residency. Some districts, especially smaller districts that are further away from metropolitan areas, they'll require their superintendent to live in the district. I don't require that or not, but some districts do. Should you choose to do that, that also narrows down the pool as well. But then there's reasons why boards sometimes want their superintendent to reside in the district as well. Other questions?
I had a couple, but you did answer one already.
Okay.
Just that, with the fee, are you obligated to deliver, say you bring us 6 viable candidates and none of them seem to be a good fit? Does the fee include additional candidates? And it does. It sounds like you'll just keep kind of searching, so that was.
We'll continue to do it. If need be, we'll reopen the search. And with it being a deputy superintendent, there's a little less time crunch, I guess. With a superintendent position, you're looking for somebody who's got to, going to be ready to go on July 1st. So a lot of boards try to get their hiring done of a new superintendent in the fall, and that's kind of the time frame that I would vote for you. Would be the board interviewing likely in October, November, and hire somebody prior to the holidays so that person's going to be in place. If it's not, you've kind of got a little bit more flexibility to be able to move into the spring to continue the search because it's a deputy superintendent who hopefully will still be ready to go on July 1st, but you still have a superintendent that you don't have to worry about.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Okay, yes, I just wanted to confirm
Oh, yeah.
the fee doesn't include a finite.
And the fee is based on enrollment. Our fee schedule is just based on enrollment in the district. There's no other fees involved. Unless you want to have some additional pieces that sometimes boards want, but not everyone does. We don't include that. If you want to have me to come in and facilitate finalist interviews and have a stakeholder group to do the interview of those 2 finalists, I can facilitate that. There's additional cost for that, but if you don't want that, or you are going to have stakeholders interviewed, you're going to be able to coordinate yourselves, and that's fine too. Some boards want to have focus groups at the beginning to gather more input, and so I can coordinate those and facilitate those with the stakeholders. We're finding that the survey, I've got a sample of the survey I'll share with you before I go. It's not scientific, it's pretty simple, but it does give you a sense of feedback from your stakeholders on this survey. There's an open comment section that you can use if you want. If you don't want it open, then we don't have it open for you in the survey. I always tell boards you have to be careful what you ask for with an open comment section because sometimes people will just use it as a forum to vent, which is okay. But it's our survey, and so we have the right to edit that out, especially if they start using names in it. It doesn't do you any good as far as the search. And so that's something that other input through the form of focus groups. Sometimes boards want that, but I'm really finding that the survey is pretty adequate for providing that initial input, especially with a deputy superintendent who's not ready to become superintendent for another year.
My other question is, in this search process, are we pretty transparent then about the eventual kind of line of succession and the long-term plan?
I think you have to.
Yeah, so given that, in the post-search, the workshops that the field services director conducts, can you kind of speak to that and elaborate for me
Sure.
how that looks? Because I think in that line of succession, those workshops might be more important.
Right, and that would be something usually it's, when you hire a new superintendent, within their first 6-month period on the job, the field service director for this area, who I think is one of our teams.
Yes.
Yeah, would come in and do a free workshop that, with the board and the new superintendent to, on whatever topics you want. This is a little different because you've had some transitioning time for a year. So we would, if you want, we would hold off that workshop until that person becomes superintendent and then still allow that to take place. But if you want to have it done during the deputy superintendent period, then Laura would work that out with you as well.
Okay, so it's one workshop.
One workshop.
Okay.
One free, there's always,
Yes.
they'll always.
No, I know, I read the fine print, I read it.
Right.
Yeah, I saw that. And then, yeah, my other question was just in terms of the transparency, but that sounds good.
What else? What other questions?
You mentioned the two recent deputy superintendents that you helped
Yeah.
identify. Are you seeing candidates as licensed superintendents or not?
Yeah, they all, from what I remember, both of those pools, that they were all licensed. Because we put it in the brochure as a requirement. Now, sometimes people will apply in spite of what the requirement is, they just do it anyway. But we found that, we put it in there, that that's what we're looking for, and that's what we usually have.
It's not uncommon for people to hold a licensure for positions that they don't currently have. I mean, we have teachers with principal licenses who are not using them currently.
But if we put it as a requirement, then they have to send us a proof of that.
Sure, I guess, and then if my question correctly, you had mentioned for a deputy, it's not required.
Not required, unless what you as a board.
Unless you want to require it, so I was curious,
Sure.
if you were seeing applicants, I guess if the two that you've worked with recently required it, then.
Yeah, they required it, and all of the candidates, both pools were.
Great.
And both pools were very, very strong. There were people who want to become superintendents, there's a limited number of superintendent positions, so they're looking for other avenues maybe. And they were candidates for superintendencies and other districts that maybe they weren't the top choice, but they saw this as a good route as well.
Thank you.
Other questions? This is just a sample survey that you could use. It's, like I said, it's an online survey. You send out I've got a memo that I provide your district office. It's got a link to it. You send that out to all your stakeholders, your constituents, and keep it open for about 2 weeks. And then you can compile all the responses, and I would come back to you with a report, a summary of those responses. We would glean from those characteristics that people have a chance to prioritize the top 6, 7, 8 characteristics that they'd like to see in their next superintendent, and put those in the national vacancy as 10 requirements for the position. And that guides us in our screening of applications. If you want somebody who, as your deputy superintendent and future superintendent, have a really strong curriculum background, let's say, we would put that as some of the top level characteristics of somebody when they apply. So hopefully, they would answer the questions and they would present to us, their strengths in curriculum. If you want somebody who's strong in collective bargaining, a variety of different things, then those come out in the prioritizing of these characteristics that you'll see on the survey. These are research-based, through American Association of School Administrators, as far as superintendent characteristics. You want somebody who's got all of them, and that's going to be the best person. But you're asking people to prioritize a little bit.
What happens if during the search we're looking for a deputy and
whatever our requirements are, and we just can't land on a deputy.
Okay,
How, say we wanna go to switch it to be a full-blown superintendent? Like, is that something that sometimes happens? Like, I mean, like ebbs and flows of like the pool type of thing.
so let's say we decide, through this deputy process, and let's say this could be, like, when early spring, and you just haven't been able to settle with somebody. Could
Yeah,
you-
because it's
Could you
like,
stop and then resume a superintendent search? Yes, you could do that.
because I mean, it depends like what we want,
Sure.
right? You know, which is the characteristics of
Right.
what we'll have, but there might be something that's just like, you know, like, for example, we don't have a business, you know, we used to, but now
Right.
everybody does both.
Sure.
So that might be like something that's gonna requirement, you know, like,
Exactly.
but
So-
a sitting superintendent might have both, so then we'll go, okay,
Right.
this was a good theory. We want that transition, but maybe we.
Sure, you could certainly do that, and then we would just kind of, pause, kind of regroup, maybe, let's say late summer next year, or early fall, but update the brochure, we open the search for a superintendent position as opposed to that. But we haven't experienced that yet, but that certainly could be something you can do, and that would be a cost, because we're already.
I mean, there's many reasons why we thought of this pathway, for stability and other things, so.
And at first, like I said, for as long as I've been doing this now for 9 years, we're finding more districts over the last 2 or 3 years that are going this route. They're willing to make a commitment to a position to get that person ready, so that there's less chance of that person not working out, when the marriage takes place. And I think that that's the key thing, and I think we're finding it to be a very positive thing.
I have one
Sure.
question. You had mentioned, I think you called it an on-site field visits where perhaps 2 board members could be present. Would Dr. Buke also come and accompany board members on that?
Came to see you, right? Yeah.
He could, but he
Okay,
wouldn't.
is it typically just,
Usually because it's looking for the next superintendent,
Yeah.
and usually it's a retiring superintendent kind of doesn't, I don't wanna say doesn't care, but it's like, no, I'm out of the process.
okay,
So, but in this case, given that it would be somebody who would be working with the doctor, it's certainly up to you as a board, but again, only 2 board members can go as far as
sure,
requirements, but that would be something.
okay. I was just curious if there was a standard practice or,
I think, both of the districts that I did, that are for deputy superintendents, both superintendents have been really good at balancing their involvement. They know that it's a board's decision, however, they also know that that person's gonna be working closely with them for a year. So the board encourages them to be involved in the interview process and encourages them to be involved in some of the other pieces of the process, so that could be something that we have to.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just as, I think we've done 2, have I been 2 with, ISB? I feel like I've done 2.
Just, well,
One.
I've only done one with your district, and that is, which I can.
I think back in the files, I think there was,
2?
I think one of the private firms did field search.
Jill Hawk.
Right.
Oh, Jill.
Yes, that's,
Jill Hawk
that
is
is
the
Julia.
former 155.
Yeah, and her
I'll
husband.
show it back.
Yep, I remember that.
She and her husband.
That one I did.
That's
that
how we got that.
Well, I will say that my experience with ASB and the process that we went through, this one was really good,
Okay.
yeah, so.
I-
And I mean, the other one was too, but it was a definite cost difference, and I think we got a little more for one, paying 2 3 times more.
Right.
So,
When I was getting ready to retire, my board chose to go with IASB, and I kind of didn't care, but then as I watched the process unfold, and I've been there so long that my board was really uncomfortable with having to make a decision on a new superintendent, and they weren't sure, how this was gonna go. And it worked out very well. I was really pleased with how the process worked. And so, once I retired, I had an opportunity, I was asked if I wanted to do this. I said, yeah, it was a very good process, and they like to work with districts in these capacities. I appreciate it. Next steps from here, should you, there needs to be a motion to employ IASB to do the search. Once you do that, then you have to, it's optimistically, go with us. Next step would be then, we'd send to, my office would send to your office, form to start completing, you're putting together a new brochure. Also then, you take a look at the sample survey, this is kind of what most districts are using, maybe use this or something similar. That's would be something that probably we would post it maybe like towards the end of July, early October, or early August. People are starting to get back into the back to school mode, keep it open for like 10 to 12 days. And then by that time, so like I said, I have a memo that we go out to tell people this is what we're doing, there's a little intro to the deputy superintendent position, and then the link to the survey. I would come back to you at your August board meeting with a report summary of the survey, draft version of the brochure. You give the okay on that, doesn't require action, you give the okay on it. We get it posted, get the position posted right away by the end of August, keep it open through probably the end of September, early October, and then you will be able to begin interviewing in October. When's your August board meeting? I don't remember.
Third Tuesday.
Third, it's always the third Tuesday, okay, so. I think that would be the 19th.
20th.
It's not the 18th.
Yeah, I know. No, that's not.
So I would plan to come back to your August board meeting and present you, this, and go from there, the next steps. Come interviewing time, I will provide a lot of assistance in that, and when present the candidates to the slate of candidates, we also talk about interviewing logistics, we've got an answer list of about 100 questions, we can talk about that, and some other specifics regarding interviewing. Okay. Really appreciate your time tonight. It's nice to meet you.
Thank
Get
you.
a chance to meet you and see you again. We'll come see you and, like I said, should you decide to do this and you sign the contract, then you can email that back to either me or to Mary Torberg in our office, and then that'll kind of start the ball rolling. Plan on August would be when I come back, if that's okay. All right.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the middle part of the summer here.
Old business. May I have a motion to authorize memorandum of understanding with the PGSP?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote please. Josie Shattuck?
Yes.
Gwen Violet? Yes. David Costa?
Yes.
Jennifer Revola?
Yes.
Sarah Shaw?
Yes.
Motion carried. May I have a motion to authorize memorandum of understanding with PGTA?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote please. Josie Shattuck?
Yes.
Gwen Violet?
Yes.
David Costa?
Yes.
Jennifer Revola?
Yes.
Shelley Shaw? Yes. Motion carried. May I have a motion to authorize a lease agreement with Tom Burning?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? I had a question when I was looking at the map. Why is it go diagonally? What happens down here? Like,
That's comments on it.
that's,
They have their own deal with their own land into the power lines. So our property does go on an angle.
I didn't know that. That's good to know. Okay, so this is for him to do hay farming on our land. Yeah. Any questions? Roll call vote please. Oh, you had a question? Sorry.
Does his rate seem pretty competitive, do you know?
Define competitive.
Well, just what other farmers in the area would pay, what, like, market price per acre?
Depends on which one, farm. We are restricting it to things that can be grown organically. But limits pretty much everything that you can do. You can't do corn, soybeans, things of that nature. You gotta do hay. No fertilizer, no pesticides, it's bare minimum. So you're down to hay.
Okay.
And this year it's getting late in the season, I mean, planting season should have already taken place, so I'm not expecting them to make any money on year one,
Okay.
which is why we write the lease this way, so we no cost year one. No profit for us, I guess, year one, other than he's gonna turn the field over and plant it, so that we don't have to maintain it.
Right, and I, just in brief Googling, it looks like hay as a product is less lucrative.
Absolutely,
And we have a smaller amount of land,
Correct.
it's almost like boutique farming.
yes, it is, that's correct.
Okay, that was all, thank you.
Roll call vote, please. Gwen Bialik,
Yes.
David Costa,
Yes.
Jennifer McGolig,
Yes.
Josie Shattuck,
Yes.
Michelle Shaw,
Yes.
motion carried. May I have a motion to amend the student transportation mini bus lease for 2024-27 to a lease purchase?
Moved.
Second.
So,
Second. Discussion.
So last month, when we discussed the lease agreement, I know there was a lot of angst at the board level for the increase of lease. It's massive. I did check around, that is in line with what other districts are seeing that lease buses, so that rate's in the same ballpark. I did inquire about ways to, over time, to make that cost go down. If you see in my memo, there's a lease purchase proposition. You're outright buying the buses, mini buses, over the 6 years. So if you did back-to-back 3-year leases, which is what we've been doing over time, lease and then lease, yes, over time you'll save money. Okay. In years 5 and 6, you're gonna be paying less money, but it's zero cost you on the buses. You do have risk and liability. Under the current plan, warranty covers nearly everything except, driver error. We don't have a mechanic that's a full-time mechanic right now. I can address this here on site today, working on the buses, taking the camera sock, getting ready for the next group. You won't have that in years 4, 5, and 6 if you did a lease purchase. The first 3 years, it's acts just like a lease. They're gonna come out, they're gonna cover things, factory warranty, company warranty, and then after that, you have what's left on the factory warranty, which is 2 more years. In year 6, you have nothing, no protection. So anything that happens to the buses in year 6, you're on the hook for the full cost of the repairs. That's the downside of owning. The downside, at least, is the cost over time is going to continue to go up. I only baked in a 3% cost increase in years 4, 5, and 6. I have no idea what it's going to be 3 years from now. If it's more than 3%, it's going to be even higher than the 110,000. Big numbers.
One or the other,
Both are equal, 100% agreed.
because if you said we don't have a mechanic, that means at year 4, 5, and 6, do we have to hire a mechanic?
You're gonna pay whatever rate, if you're gonna have Midwest do the mechanic work, you're gonna pay whatever their rate is for that service on years 4, 5, and 6, and those rates aren't set yet, because they're in the future.
But like, what is the rate now?
Right now, it's covered under warranty, so it's $0, so it's
But,
not gonna make them.
Yeah, but like if we were in the buy for, if I had to pay for a mechanic today,
Oh, diesel, these are diesel to gas mechanics, it's gonna be, I'm gonna say probably pushing $75 to $100 an hour.
and typically how many hours do they work?
It's on the nature of the bus and what the issue is. If it's brakes, it's not bad. If it's tired, it's something different. If it's a broken door, you're waiting on parts and you're waiting on the labor to install it.
And they're here a lot. They really are. I mean,
And what I'm trying to figure out is like, is it like, what order of magnitude does it make the delta of a lease versus a purchase? Like, if it's like, I'm gonna end up paying $50,000 over 3 years from a mechanic on top of it and higher liability, which one makes more sense?
Right, like could we approximate how many hours they spent during the last year of performance service? Are we talking about 100 hours or, 30 hours? I truly had no idea. And so that would kind of help
Given those two, it'd be closer to the 100 than the 30.
in a year's time.
Yeah, in a year's time.
Oh,
So we have, a fleet of 14 buses coming that they're maintaining.
But to your point, though, over a fleet.
Or is that for the fleet
Yeah,
or
that's
is
for the
that per
fleet.
bus?
No, that's for the fleet. Not per bus. That'd be awful.
I don't know.
Yes.
So then wait, if this is 4 buses what happens to the rest of our 10 buses? Like, are they on lease, right?
Large buses will still be under the same program we are now, which is a full-blown lease that's gonna expire next year.
So we'll be back in this boat again.
With
100%.
10 buses next year.
That's what we have now. Big buses, we have 10.
So we're talking about the 4 now and the 10 are all up next year.
4 would not be that. The mini buses are up now. Okay, so that's what we have for this agreement to replace them in July. They're
So
in
it's
stock
like
and ready for us.
10,000.
Okay.
And that's a 3-year lease.
Got
Big buses, we do a 2-year lease in big buses.
Okay. And those are all done in the same year, so that's.
No, because
They're eventually, yes, eventually the 2s and the 3s catch up, we have both in the same year. Right now, we're off a year.
What's the residual value if, only if we were gonna turn around and sell these buses to another district?
Right now, they depreciate about 5 years. That's what we're allowed to do based on the rules and regs. So depreciate over 5 years, its value is nothing.
No.
You can try to sell it to somebody, but you're not gonna get, if you go to sell your used car for 5 years, you're not gonna get anywhere near what you paid for what it's gonna cost you new, and not what you think it's worth, most likely. That is the nature of the automotive business.
well, why, if the reason for the prices to go up at 200% or something was because of like production and COVID and all this, isn't it eventually should it come back down? It's just gonna keep on going up with it. I feel like this.
Assume the manufacturers wanna pick up the pace again, I don't know that they're going to. They're seeing record profits right now.
Supply and demand, they're not gonna increase production.
So with the terms of a 3-year lease, I'm sorry,
No, you're good.
with the terms of a 3-year lease, maintenance, because that falls under the window of, the warranty, that's all included.
Yes.
It's a lower upfront cost. Well, what's your recommendation?
Depends on your risk level. You want no risk, stick to lease. If you want to absorb some risk and save money long-term, go with purchase. It just comes down to how well the buses are maintained during the time when it's covered under the warranty, how well our staff maintains those buses and treats the buses, and how well the kids do as well. Some of the wear and tear is through students, believe it or not. Windows going up and down, seats, what's in your pocket, in the seat, the pin, jabs into it. All those things are something to think about. I mean, I would probably say I would take the risk and save the money in the end. You're gonna be more upfront to own them, but in the long term, it saves you money. So I always start with the long term. But there's risk involved.
I like the long term, I like the savings. Where I'm uncomfortable right now is not having more data around the exposure. Relative to understanding what type of maintenance that we get, how many hours. And then applying that per bus calculation to what this 4 buses could potentially be.
We could. So we have the lease deal on the table right now for the $106,000 for the 4 mini buses. We could run that lease out and then try to buy the buses outright as used buses on year 4. I don't know what number they're gonna try to sell it to you at, because they'd be your buses, and you know exactly how you maintain them, and what you put into them, how many hours of maintenance went into them during the 3 years they were here. But all that maintenance would have been covered.
What are they trying to sell? Didn't we get a price from them on buying buses that we have now?
That was the buying the big buses. Different animal altogether.
So what's our action on this
If
tonight?
you,
Because I personally don't feel like we got enough data.
so you got a motion and a second to amend last month's motion for the lease to do the lease purchase, which would, be 3 years of the lease at 163. And then at 3 years, you own the buses. Okay. Or you can vote that motion down, you want to get a motion second, you can vote it down, or you can choose to table it, and we're gonna have to push the lease through, because they're waiting for the paperwork, we can push it through yet, they're waiting for it. And then you can make the decision 3 years from now, what you wanna do.
Which we can actually make the decision about the next set of buses and use this theory of purchase or buy.
You can, because we'll find the data points on these buses and what it
So like
takes.
we could do
I think we're better
conservative,
off combining the conversation, 3 buses and little buses.
so we have a time thing. And that lease is different than this lease. So I would go conservative and least risk, knowing that we have to rediscuss this for the big buses, collect data, and see how those big buses are doing like at the end of their lease. Like first 3 years, there shouldn't be as much, but there's still like wear and tear and damage. But then we can look at like, third year bus, how's that performing compared to first year bus, and try to see more specific data. And then use that idea of like buying out a set of buses outright versus not, and see what neighboring school districts do about leasing versus purchasing and mechanics, is like, I just am not.
The larger districts have their mechanics, I mean, that's different animals, the smaller districts
They
have
have
their
a
very.
bus shed and all that.
Can I ask a
Which you
question?
don't have, so.
Is there a mileage, like, limit?
Just like a regular lease.
Just like a regular lease? So those mini buses go a lot farther than our big buses.
They roll 3 times a day.
Well, and then they go too far with places. I mean, right now, I'm going to Sleepy Hollow and back twice a day. So,
So I didn't, I would,
I'm not gonna wait for those.
we have to, right,
Well, you have to make a choice, we have to have the buses
for the fall.
for the fall, because the ones we have now, they're gonna take back in about 2 weeks.
So I like what Kashali was saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Because in pushing that decision out a year, we get real-time data to make decisions with, and then won't those 2 contracts then be up at the same time?
No, there'll be one more release after that on the big buses, then you'll get the.
Oh, I thought the big buses were 1 year out.
Yeah, but this is a 3-year lease for the mini buses,
Oh, right, okay.
but you still have, you have the data, that's correct.
And you can still look at the 3 years to buy them outright and then see what the negotiated prices are.
I'm sure Trina has the data now, how many times it's had to call for maintenance on our current fleet. I'm sure I can get it, just get it to that tonight.
Sure, yeah. For someone who knows nothing about this, right? I have a property deal, and they're having that information.
So then if you vote today, are we voting on what?
I would vote this one down then.
Vote this down and stick to the
Yeah,
original,
and then
because
let go.
this is saying lease to purchase, or,
Last month was just the.
And last month was just the lease,
So then that's
everyone's
what
ready to
they-
go, we just didn't submit it.
Okay,
is that clear?
yep, that makes sense to me.
So we're gonna kick the full decision down the road a little bit.
But with a very conscious lens of like per bus, the age of bus, how many maintenance hours to be able to then, because we got 10 more buses to do this on. And then-
I agree with that information, going from decisions.
This feels like the most conservative option out of the 2,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so then,
Vote.
huh?
You can vote.
Yes, so you'd be, if you want last month's, yes, you have to vote no today.
Correct.
So roll call vote.
David Costa,
No,
Jennifer Verbolik,
No.
Josie Shattuck.
No.
Gwen Violet,
No,
Michelle Shaw.
No.
Motion failed. Sorry.
New business, and. Okay, new business, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes regular and executive session minutes from May 21st, 2024, bills payable, fiscal year ends payable, treasurer's report, destination of executive session minutes from October 17, 2023, January 16th, February 20th, and March 19, 2024, destruction of verbatim recordings from April 12th, May 5th, May 10th, June 14th to July 12th, August 9th, and disposition of district property.
so moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Jennifer Regolick,
Yes.
Josie Shattuck,
Yes.
Gwen Violet,
Yes.
David Costa,
Yes.
Shelley Shaw.
Yes.
Motion carried.
May I have a motion to approve resolution 2024-07 to designate bank depositories for school district funds for 2024-25?
Second.
Discussion, this is an annual thing.
Correct.
Nothing.
No depositories are all the same.
Okay, roll call vote please.
Jennifer Regolick.
Yes.
Josie Shattuck,
Yes.
Gwen Violet,
Yes.
David Costa,
Yes.
Shelley Shaw.
Yes.
Motion carried.
May I have a motion to approve an agreement with the Illinois Association of School Boards for executive search services?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So like our original plan that like you spoke about, Alan, was just that, we know Dr. Butte
It's retiring.
is retiring, he would say doesn't say fail, but like retiring in 2 years. So we thought if we start looking now, that we can have a deputy superintendent that would help with the transition. There's a lot of things going on in that year. And so we thought this would be an approach to help keep stability, transition, keep our options open, and have some long.
And going with ISU, if I remember correctly, from when we looked at the options, this is significantly higher, like
2 to 3 times less. Yes.
than the other executive search companies.
Yes. So, any other questions, discussion points? Does anybody think that we need to do any of the add-on services?
It seems very comprehensive.
Not at this point, I
Yeah.
think they were further down the road where we needed to have them, we could always add them if we wanted to.
So, roll call vote, please.
Josie Shattuck,
Yes.
Gwen Violet,
Yes.
David Costa,
Yes.
Jennifer Regolick,
Yes.
Shelley Shaw.
Yes.
Motion carried.
May I have a motion to approve non-union salary adjustments for 2024-25?
So moved.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Josie Shattuck,
Yes.
Gwen Violet,
Yes.
David Costa,
Yes.
Jennifer Regolick,
Yes.
Shelley Shaw.
Yes.
Motion carried.
May I have a motion to adjourn at 8:02 P.M.?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Enjoy your summer. I will not, I will be in Ann Arbor, Michigan, for work. That'll be good.
I'll be here.
Yeah. Will you be here?
Unfortunately, not considered.
Yeah, we're saying yes.
Maybe not sure.
I'm gonna be there.
I know.
But I don't know, possibly I have a work. Yeah, so probably. No, just leave it on.